of the things that I know that people will wonder sometimes, and I hear it here in New York, is that when things start to appear as though they are a complete discombobulated mess with a franchise, they'll say the league should step in and do something. What from sitting where you sit with the commissioner, as you see all this stuff going on with the Lakers, what is the league's position?
The league's position first is that we have tremendous confidence in Jeanie Buss. Her family are some of the longest standing owners in the NBA and one of the most successful ownership groups in all of Major League Sports history. I mean, in the time that they've owned the team, they have the second most championships in the entire league. And I know Jeanie knows how to manage a team. And sure, when things start to go wrong, a lot of fingers get pointed. People like to pile on, but they'll figure it out. I mean, I'm also been really close to Magic over the years. He's a tremendous leader. I think I watched that press conference live like everyone else did and didn't know it was coming, but I think he spoke from the heart, and I think he decided it wasn't the right situation for him. But Jeanie will get it together.
Thank you, Commissioner. That's what I've been trying to tell the world or anybody that will listen. This is not the time to cry for the Los Angeles Lakers. They're actually in a good spot. They have great young assets. They have LeBron James. They're a storied franchise. I was trying to let people know that when you struggle and or there's some dysfunction, this is what happens around the league when teams don't meet their goals.
I think that's absolutely right. And I think the Lakers in particular, look, there's a tremendous following for the Los Angeles Lakers because they've been such a winning franchise over the last several decades. And so they get inordinate amounts of attention. And I think it comes with being a storied franchise. But again, LeBron James, one of the best players in history, currently one of the best players on the league, is still on their franchise. That's an incredible starting point to build off. So I really do have confidence that they'll get things together.
We had a story on ESPN.com yesterday that went into any variety of detail about all the different dysfunctional things, and there was one story in it that did involve you directly, so I would ask you, it involved apparently Rich Paul approaching you at a dinner one night and suggesting that he thought that Luke Walton was the wrong coach to be in place. What do you remember from that conversation?
Honestly, I hardly remember. It's not, once it was reported, I had to think back and say, yeah, it was actually a lunch. I was at a lunch. There were two people sitting there. He was in the same restaurant. He sat down for a second, and I think he said something along the lines that Luke Walton's not the right guy to coach LeBron. And I think my reaction was to shrug my shoulders and maybe said, and who do you think is the right guy to coach? And he mentioned a name, and that was that. I mean, I think it was all 30-second conversations. I never thought twice about it. I certainly never repeated it to anyone. I didn't think the people at that lunch would choose to repeat it to anyone, but I think as commissioner, I don't want to shut people off who have a point of view. I think that was a situation where I think he was just taking advantage of the fact I was sitting there. And I'm not even sure. I think he just wanted to say it out loud. I don't think he had any expectation that I would repeat that to anyone.
How common is something like that with you? I would just wonder. People, they must be approaching you to the point that I just made a moment ago. Everyone thinks you can just do anything you want with anything. How common would an interaction like that be in your life?
Interactions like that are very common because I travel a lot. I'm in a lot of NBA arenas. I've been with the league for 27 years, so I know a lot of people, and I actually encourage people to give me their point of view. I just say, I'm not sure, though, that his expectation was that I would do anything with that. I think he was just sort of complaining out loud. I don't think it had anything to do with the fact that he thought that I would then do anything with that information.
I agree. And what happens, Greenie, is being as transparent and as present as he's been as a commissioner, you're going to have all types of people approaching you, coaches, managers, agents, players, and there's a common denominator to each person that approaches him and asks for something. It's in their best interest. So I'm pretty sure it's a unique juggling act that you have to gauge when those interactions take place.
It is, and Jalen, I know you know this too. I mean, we use the expression the NBA family. I mean, I think one of the advantages, I would argue, over the other leagues, it's a very small league. I mean, I've been in the league for 27 years.
Only 4,000 players have ever performed
played
in the
league.
NBA game.
And especially, like, for example, when we're on the road for the finals or other events or in City for All-Star, there's usually a few restaurants that everyone's in. And I think if I got to the point where I didn't want to, I avoided those restaurants because somebody might say something to me or somebody walked up to me and said, don't say anything to me, I don't think I could do my job as effectively.
I have 1 minute left, and so just this one quickly. There was a lot of Zion Williamson, huge star, going to New Orleans. John Morant expected, and another guy who looks like he has star potential written all over him, going to Memphis. The two biggest college stars to the two smallest markets in the NBA. How does that impact the league?
I think it's fantastic for the league. I think the goal is to have a 30-team league, a league where competition is determined based on management, not based on market size, not based by the individual wealth of ownership. And I think here we're seeing it increasingly. Look at the success Portland had in the conference finals. Look at Milwaukee. Look at Toronto, which is actually a very fourth largest market in North America, but one historically that people said players wouldn't want to play in and that couldn't compete. And I think what we're seeing in terms of the way the lottery's working, the way the draft's working, is that players first and foremost want to win. And they also realize if you're Giannis in Milwaukee and you're the #1 vote getter in the East and truly one of the biggest stars in the world, I don't think anyone can effectively get to him and say, boy, if only you played in this market that had 1 million more people, you could really be a star. I think what you want a system where players want to be in a market where they believe in management, they believe in their coach, they believe in their ownership, and they think if I'm here, I have the greatest opportunity to win. That's what it should be about, and all the other stuff follows from that.
And as somebody that grew up in the Midwest, I always frown at the notion that the league pushes the best players to the largest market. I was happy the way the lottery system played out, because not only did it show that tanking doesn't pay off, in particular for the Bulls, the Suns, and the Knicks, because neither of them got the top 2 picks. But the 2 smallest markets probably got the 2 most explosive players coming into this year's draft. Do you hear that talk about how the league favors where a top player might end up going?
I do watch ESPN. So I have heard it. It's not true.
I know.